Hi everyone, welcome to the second in EMAP Sustaining Your Business series. We're happy to have you join us, and we think we have another great webinar in store for you. We have a good number of registrants that signed up for the webinar. I think most of them are pretty savvy environmental people, while others are probably a little bit more business focused. We hope that the material we're providing today kind of pleases both audience types and that you can at least take something away for both you and your small business, or if you're assisting a food production business. Before we get a little further, I'd like to thank Kelly Co-Francisco, Nancy Crickman, and Ann Gonzalez for helping putting together today's webinar. And we'd especially like to thank Ann Hoogenboom for guest speaking today and for spending time with us. She's got some great things that they're doing in Agri-Mark Cabot in terms of sustainability. So a couple housekeeping items. We are recording the webinar. We'll post it a little bit later on our website at the EMAP website. Right now, all participants are muted. So we encourage you, if you have any questions, to please use the chat function. We'll be monitoring that occasionally throughout the presentation. We plan on running the webinar approximately 45 minutes in length. We'll save some time for questions and answers at the end. And if you haven't seen it already, in the very bottom right-hand corner, there is a copy of the presentation. Now, I do apologize. The file size is a little bit big. So if you can't download it right now and want to get a copy of the presentation, we'll try to figure out a different way we can get that to you. So if you like what you're hearing today or want to join the conversation, by all means, please, find us on Facebook or Twitter. You could use the hashtag Sustaining Your Business or Ask EMAP, or if you desire, use another hashtag of your choosing. But thanks again for joining us. So this is a little bit about me and a little bit about Ann. I've been with EMAP for almost 12 years now, working with small businesses across Pennsylvania. My focus has been mostly and most recently on environmental compliance assistance, with a focus on air quality. I've also assisted businesses with energy efficiency, pollution prevention, waste issues, wastewater, and finding available sources of funding. Now, Ann Hoogenboom, she serves the farmers of Agri-Mark Cabot Creamery Cooperative as the sustainability coordinator. She manages projects that serve Cabot's pledge of living within our means and ensuring the means to live. She brings several years of related sustainability experience to the role with a unique background that spans private, public, and nonprofit work. Prior work experience includes the solar energy industry, corporate social responsibility related to public policy advocacy for the state of Vermont, and the adaptation to climate change research and public outreach in both Washington State and Vermont. So a little bit about what we're going to go over today. I'm going to quickly go into some Pennsylvania food production items, a little bit of statistics. Then we'll get into some environmental issues and some trends. I'm going to talk a little bit about food production and sustainable segments, and then we'll have Ann talk about Agri-Mark Cabot and the benefits of being a cooperative, the dairy as being a solution to climate change. Lessons learned from the network of green teams, a model for closed loop systems, or real farm power, why it pays to be a B Corp, and then we'll cut into some Q&A, and we have a list of some resources available. One thing I will mention after the webinar, we'll try to send out a survey. So if you like what you hear today, or you want to see something food related or some other topic similar to this, please fill out the survey and give us your comments. So one of the purposes of the webinar is, if you did or did not know, Pennsylvania is known as the snack food capital of the world. That industry generates more than $5.1 billion in sales annually. And we also have a mushroom production that accounts for 425 million pounds produced annually, which is valued at $330.7 million per year. The other thing, too, is food production. It's a highly regulated industry. I think the FDA has a laundry list of requirements, but our focus is going to be more on the environmental side of things, probably more the state or federal agencies. there's also a lot of organizations that are doing things in the food area. There's plenty of private sector. There's USDA, the Small Business Development Centers, the small business environmental assistance providers, and of course, local universities. Um, I think most food businesses probably start very small or out of a hobby or out of a kitchen somewhere. So the Pennsylvania SBDC, we've seen a lot of these come from kind of from a from an idea to fruition. Um, we've seen a lot from pasta makers to jerkies to salsas. I mean, you name it. So here's a little diagram. This is taken from DCED, the Department of Community and Economic Development. Pennsylvania is ranked number 6 in the country for food manufacturing, and as you can see, that equates roughly to $38.4 billion worth of manufactured food goods produced annually. So here's a little snapshot of the kind of clients that we have worked with here at the Pennsylvania SBDC. Now, this is sort of a sample size, or really it's a snapshot. This data is taken from November 2015 through November 2016. And as you can see at the very top, I mean, there was a large amount of retail and commercial bakeries, followed by coffee and tea, frozen foods, fruits and juices. Then you have your snack foods or roasted nuts, and so on and so forth. If you're curious about the data, we kind of looked at this by NAICS code, or North American Industrial Classification System. This sample size was out of 163 total clients, so it does give you a little snapshot as to the kind of variety and types of businesses that we work with and see here. So what are some of the environmental issues and trends? I took a look at some things that were going on. I found a survey that was coming out, or that went out the last few years from Food Engineering magazine, and I hope these figures are okay enough, legible enough for you to read. But I'll point you to the 2014, I guess, the survey results over on the left-hand side. A couple of things I wanted to note was that lean manufacturing scored number 3, sustainability was number 8, regulations was number 10. In 2015, in the middle figure, you'll see that lean manufacturing moved up a tick from 2014 up to number 2. And in 2016, food safety regulations scored number 3, packaging concerns was number 4, improving efficiency was number 8. But a couple of the other things that was interesting that I noted was the consumer demand, or the trends. They came in at number 1 in 2014 and 2015, and I'm sorry, they were correct, number 1, and then they went up a notch to number 5 this past year. I also want to point out, for the sake of the sustainability webinar, the packaging concerns ranked number 4 in terms of trends in 2016. So let's look at food production in terms of sustainable business segments. I guess there would be 3 things that you could take a look at. One would be operations. In terms of operations, that would mostly be regulatory compliance or energy efficiency and pollution prevention. Another segment we could look at would be packaging, and that could be both marketing your product to consumers or looking at packaging as another material good. In terms of material goods, I mean, that would be something more of a consumer standpoint. That's something, another item that needs to be, handled or disposed of or recycled. And then finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about waste as being both a component of operations and packaging, but then there's also a big component, which is food waste. So some of the equipment that most likely occurs at food production facilities across Pennsylvania, across the country, is a number of large boilers or ovens or roasters. You can think of coffee roasters, or the retail bakeries would have a lot of ovens. Some of these, at least in Pennsylvania, may be subject to air permitting requirements or regulations. I mean, there are exemptions depending upon the scale or the size of the business. For the engines, for a lot of businesses that may need emergency power, or they may be located off the grid, they may have an engine that also may be required to comply with state and federal requirements. In terms of wastewater, I mean, wastewater, a lot of food production businesses use water to clean or something else, which ends up resulting in some sort of wastewater, whether that be a point or non-point discharge, um, directly discharging to a stream or waterway, or et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, there's refrigeration and air conditioning, which is has been a focus on a lot of the things due to the refrigerants. I know EPA had revised some proposed rules to to make some of the refrigerants a little bit more better for the air. So in terms of refrigerants, if any of you were aware, back in I guess July of last year, Trader Joe's was I guess fined by EPA for, it was a sizable amount. I think the total sum amount came to about $2 million to fix refrigeration concerns or refrigeration violations. So I mean, this is just one example. I'd hate to pick on Trader Joe's, but this is something as a food business. This is the kind of the press or the bad press you really don't want to get. We'd rather prefer that the businesses that we work with or the SBDC works with or any of the assistance providers gets an award or finds something that's much better than this type of thing. But to go back to operations in terms of processes, some of the opportunities to explore, I touched on a little bit already, would be the energy efficiency. That could be both the equipment and behavioral energy uses. You can think of like a Toyota for the food production business as lean manufacturing. Trying to cut away any of the waste that's happening on an operational perspective, looking for ways to improve efficiencies, et cetera, et cetera. But also for the materials, either the raw goods or the packaging. I've already touched on that. But also where to source the materials from, whether it be local or regional, national, or even outside the country. So food packaging, it is a big issue. Roughly 45% of it makes its way into landfill. The packaging is most likely going to be any businesses, especially a food production business, their customers' first experience with their product, whether they've heard about you or not. So packaging can be used as a way to market to consumers, really. You can help your consumers figure out a way to either recycle it or compost it better. It's really a kind of a key interaction with your customer. Of course, size and materials matter. There's all sorts of decisions you can make, whether bulk, one-time use, perhaps something in between. You can also use the packaging as a way to communicate to your customers. Is your product going to be organic? Is it going to be made with natural ingredients? Is it going to be non-GMO? Again, you can tell your story. How does it better kind of communicate to your customers how your company is doing environmentally friendly or sustainable operations? The one thing to note, though, is if you do decide to go that route and labeling one of your products as some sort of, environmentally friendly process or foods type, the competition is getting crowded. If you take a look, this is kind of a busy figure, but you'll see a lot of, no gluten, no preservatives, organic, et cetera, et cetera. You can just see from sort of at the very bottom, the total new product claims from 2003 all the way up to 2010 goes from a little over 16,000 to over 25,000. This figure was tracked by the USDA, so it's something to pay attention to. So food waste has, again, become one of these things that it's on everybody's radar. It's become a really big problem. Over 38 million tons of food waste is generated, and figures cite that only about 5% of it is diverted to landfills or makes its way into incineration. Of the landfills, approximately 21% of that is solid waste. So, I mean, it costs a lot of money and resources, not only for the waste itself, but all the other, let's say, energy or products that went into just making that. So water, gasoline, energy, labor. You can think of any maybe potentially pesticides or land fertilizers. And there's also the disposal costs of managing the waste as well. In terms of the food waste, that also is a big issue with methane. Methane is one of those gases. It's over 21 to roughly 25 times the global warming potential of carbon dioxide. So what can be done? EPA, if you've ever seen this figure before, they kind of created this food recovery hierarchy. I mean, it kind of goes from the most preferred to the least preferred, efforts to reduce and divert food waste. Um, just note that not all the methods are appropriate for types of food waste, but it at least provides some sort of guide for businesses to choose the best approach to reduce or divert, the waste, and doing so in the most environmentally, social, economic way possible. According to the Food Waste Alliance, they took a survey from the food manufacturing sector, and what they found is 94% of the diverted food waste was repurposed either as an animal feed or for land application. The top barrier to food donations for food waste for the manufacturing sector was mostly regulatory constraints, and roughly 56% of the respondents said that was the concern. In terms of food waste recycling, most of the survey results said it was insufficient recycling operations. They really weren't sure how to go about recycling the food waste. So food waste from a production size, another key findings, I guess, from the survey and from other reported studies is there isn't really an easy way to measure and track the food waste at a given facility. So hopefully there will be a way, or you can reach out to an assistant provider, find out a way to track it. But I mean, the main key would be to eliminate any inefficiencies in the process. That would be utilizing everything from zero landfill, from using your waste to waste to energy, et cetera, et cetera. It's also important to consider waste from a consumer standpoint, and also in the supply chain. The responsibility of getting your product to the consumer's hands. So a couple of potential action items to do now as a business or as a business assistance provider. You could go back to a business plan, incorporate sustainability, ways to address operations, designate someone to at least be in charge of environmental initiatives or sustainability. You could find a way or try to get an audit or an assessment to measure, improve, or eliminate waste at the facility or at the operations. Again, you can seek the help. There's many, many small business programs out there. We have them listed in the resources section for this presentation. So please visit them at a later time. Here is my contact information. If anybody has a question, ask anything else, or wants to visit our website where we will post the presentation at a later time. I do see one question, just to clarify, what do you mean to consider a waste from a consumer standpoint? Allison, I just meant that, from a production standpoint, as a food production business or a manufacturer, you can look at waste from the production standpoint versus the actual consumer. If I went to Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's or something like that to actually buy a particular product, that's what I meant by being from a consumer standpoint. I see another question starting to type, but I'm going to introduce Ann Hoogenboom, the sustainability coordinator from Agri-Mark Cabot. Ann, if you can hear me.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
All right. Great. Well, thanks so much, Jeremy, and thanks to everybody on the webinar. I'm really happy to be able to be here today to share with you all some of the things that we do here at Cabot Creamery / Agri-Mark, which is the name of our cooperative, and how it aligns with a lot of the information that Jeremy just went over. So I will just dive right into some of the slides that I have prepared for you. Just to give a little background for those of you who aren't familiar with our business, we are a cooperative of farmers. We have 1,100 farmers throughout New England and New York that make up our cooperative that deliver or provide milk for the dairy products that we make under the brand of Cabot cheese. as well as cultured products, yogurts and sour creams, and butter, and so on. So we have a unique sort of structure for regarding that relates to sustainability. Being a cooperative of farmers, we sort of have this innate sense of sustainability. And I have this quote here from the director of our board, or the board, saying sustainability is in the soul of every good farmer and at the heart of co-op success. And as Jeremy mentioned before in my intro, our motto in our sustainability team is this: living within our means and ensuring the means to live. And I think it's really representative of when you're thinking about, from a manufacturing standpoint, being Cabot Creamery as a manufacturer, we really focus on all of our business process to be sustainable because our farmers require that for their success as well. So I want to talk to you a little bit about our sustainability scope of work. We look at everything that we do in sort of this closed loop approach, and I think that's one thing that I would recommend as you're thinking about sustainability in your businesses is how are the systems that you're thinking about feeding back into each other. And so we really look at this as a holistic system, starting with the cow or the farm, and then through that makes up our cooperative of farmers as a whole. So really verifying that we're doing all that we can do in terms of sustainability on our farms. And then that impacts our creamery and the business process within our creamery, our manufacturing, and all of the topics that Jeremy was just talking about with packaging and manufacturing and sourcing and so on. And I'll go into a little more detail about how we manage sustainability within our creamery. And that impacts our brand, on the commercial side, and how we're communicating to our customers, to whether it be grocery stores or food service providers, etc. And that we are continuing to hear a greater call for sustainability programs. We have regular requests from our large customers, from some of the largest food, suppliers around the country, grocery stores, etc., asking, what is your sustainability program? What are you doing to ensure that you have sustainability practices in place on your farm and in your manufacturing facilities? And then, finally, it ends with our consumer and the messages that we're putting out to our consumer, whether that be on labels and packaging or through, our brand marketing, and so on. So I want to start with talking about that first part of the scope of our work and what we're doing on our farms. And so this image here, if you aren't familiar, which I wouldn't expect everyone to know, but on the lower left side here is a photo of an anaerobic digester. This is a farm, one of our member farms down in western Massachusetts, and we have a manufacturing facility in West Springfield, Massachusetts, where we manufacture all of our butter. And as you can see in the image of the butter carton, we have this great little quote. Hopefully you can read that. It says, "Cows in our cooperative provide cream and electricity for the butter we churn." So this is an innovative program that we have called Real Farm Power, where we are, going back to the topic that Jeremy was highlighting around food waste, we have a really great opportunity as dairy farmers to provide solutions for some of these, the biggest problems that are facing society today, in specific around food waste and renewable energy. And so this anaerobic digester actually processes manure from the farm as well as organic byproduct from our butter production. And we also partner with local other manufacturers and the local grocery store chain to process their food waste. And the result is renewable energy that is equivalent to all of the electricity that we need to churn and package our butter. So to give a little better graphic of how this all works, and again, sort of that closed loop thinking, from start to finish and how it continues to cycle back through. If If you look on the right side of this image here, we have, like I said, cow manure, manufacturing food scraps, as well as retailer food scraps, all going into this farm biodigester, which is producing a biogas that produces energy that's fed into the electrical grid, and then we are purchasing the credits to offset that electricity needed to manufacture our butter. It also powers the farm. The farm has all of their electricity offset by the digester, which is equivalent to about powering 250 homes. And there are additional benefits of heat coming off of the digester, fertilizer in liquid form that fertilizes the 400 acres of land on this farm. And we even have farmers who are making innovative products from the solid leftovers. They use it for cow bedding, and we have one farm that's actually making pots called moo pots out of this material. So what I really want as a takeaway from this project is that this is a project that we were only able to put together through partnerships. To have that digester on this farm alone would have been too expensive for the farm owners, but in working through partnerships with the creamery, being able to provide feedstock, and working with the grocery store and working with a renewable energy company, we have this program that's really hitting a trifecta of benefits within food waste, renewable energy, heat, and then of course nutrient management through the fertilizer. And we, kind of going back to telling that story, we won the 2016 U.S. Dairy Sustainability Award for dairy processing and manufacturing, which is given by the Innovation Center for U.S. Dairy. And if you think back to the scope of our work, this is something that's really important for our business because we want to tell the story of what we're doing and share with others, and really have our consumers be aware of the work that's possible so that it encourages that type of thinking in other places. So I just want to quickly run through a couple other neat opportunities we have on the farm. Solar projects on the farm. There are some new projects going in now with solar panels that are heightened so that cows can graze underneath them. We work closely with renewable energy partners here in Vermont, and I think it's we've seen great benefit. And again, on these types of projects, my best advice is looking into the partnerships of helping with funding. We have the energy efficiency groups in Vermont that support this type of work as well. We also work closely with an organization called Manomet that has developed a scorecard. It's called the Vital Capital Index. And this scorecard is used with our farmers so that they can evaluate what they're doing on their farms and monitor their sustainability, outline goals that they have, and track their progress along the way. And so I think this thought applies to both the farm as well as internal manufacturing processes, and really making sure that you are having some type of scorecard or way to track the progress that you're making, and identifying areas for opportunity. And if you're interested in learning more about the Vital Capital Index, this is all on our website, cabotcheese.com, and there's more information to explain a little more about that. So now I'd like to shift over to talking a little bit about sustainability in our creameries. So Jeremy was talking a lot about operations and looking at things like boilers and engines and wastewater and refrigeration. We have the way that we've done this, and in this image you can see on the bottom of the slide here is my photo and our director of sustainability, Judd Davis, his photo. But what I really wanted to explain in this is that we, as an organization, like I said, we're 1,100 farmers, and then we have probably over 1,000 employees within Cabot, but there are just 2 of us that are dedicated to sustainability. But we really look at it as we are all doing work in sustainability, and so we have a network of green teams that run throughout our facilities and throughout our offices. And there are folks on those teams from from marketing, from the plant manufacturing, from maintenance, from purchasing. So we have folks that are coming into these teams, meeting on monthly or bi-monthly basis to talk about packaging, lean manufacturing, sourcing. Who are we sourcing from? We have the purchasing team on these teams. We have the folks in building facilities management on these teams that work on energy efficiency projects. And Jeremy was talking about refrigerants. We just finished a year-long project analyzing our refrigeration processes, and we, at the end of 2016, made updates and efficiencies that will save 900,000 kilowatt hours a year, just without any capital investments. And that was all working through the Vermont Energy Investment Corporation, which is a nonprofit through the state. We use them as a resource. So again, kind of looking out to see also, what are the resources we have internally as well as the resources we have externally to help us. And then this slide here shows you some great projects going on with our transportation folks. We are involved in some interesting and innovative research right now, as the lower picture here shows some solar panels on top of our refrigerated trucks. We are working with the Fraunhofer Institute out of Boston, and they are testing to see how much solar radiance we could potentially capture by having panels on truck rooftops. The top image is a truck with a design from a local artist in Vermont, and that's just to show that we are also very involved in our communities and want to support our communities as much as we can. And this was a great opportunity where we were able to support a local artist and use that in our marketing as well for our trucks. And we've done a lot of fuel efficiency projects. The cabs of these trucks are all, they're called auxiliary power units. They do not have to idle while the truck, typically you have a driver who's idling 12 hours or 14 hours out of a 24-hour period. These do not have to idle, and we are part of the EPA Smart Ways program and constantly looking at biofuel options and that kind of thing. So again, through these green team networks, we have ideas coming up from all of our employees versus just, like I said, the two of us who are dedicated to sustainability. And again, another project with the green team is working with our water and making sure that we are, our impacts are sustainable. And I wanted to bring up this context-based sustainability. We focus not just on setting goals around certain, water resources or energy efficiency, but really understanding the context of that. So at our location in Cabot, Vermont, how much water are we using compared to the availability of the water in that town and the other people who need that water? And we measured what our fair share would be, essentially, and then created a water reuse program so that we were only impacting the local community at what is considered to be our fair share of those resources. This is just another photo of more projects from our green teams working with resource recovery, starting composting programs, energy efficiency programs. Like I said, we have the 900,000 kilowatt hour savings, which equals about an estimated over 75,000 a year with doing these energy efficiency projects and working collaboratively with outside partners. This is Efficiency Vermont here. And then we've also done a lot of conversion to compressed natural gas at our plants. And again, I think just sort of looking at what is the suite of options that you have. We had an opportunity to do a conversion to natural gas, and because we said we set a goal of eliminating number 2 and number 6 fuel oil. And this was a wonderful project that had a huge impact, and as you can see, sort of the comparison of the green and gray silo of the decrease in our carbon footprint from that conversion. And like I said, this is really important for our customers. It's really important for the way things are shifting in the marketplace. These are a couple quotes from some of our largest customers. Barry Cabot is a European company. The quote here, "The best-in-class rating is for dairy, but Agri-Mark was compared to processors, manufacturers, and traders around the globe." And then over from Walmart, the quote here is, "I see that Cabot is in the top 5 suppliers for dairy on our sustainability index. Great work." And this is, again, really important as we continue to see sustainability rising to the top of importance in terms of the what is being demanded of us further down the supply chain as well. And lastly, what I wanted to share with everyone in this group, and if you all aren't familiar with B Corp certification, just to give a little background, we are a certified B Corporation, and Cabot Creamery Cooperative was actually the world's first cheesemaker and dairy cooperative to achieve B Corp certification. And basically, what this means is this is a certification similar to something like an organic certification or a non-GMO certification, or for food, or a LEED certification for a building. A B Corp certification is a stamp of approval from the business community that as a business you are dedicated to focusing on the triple bottom line of people, profit, and planet versus solely focusing on a profit bottom line. And so this certification brings us into a group of fellow B Corps that we get to leverage knowledge off of. We get to share with each other. We get to support each other. And let me just switch ahead to this slide so you can barely see, but there are a number of companies listed here: Ben & Jerry's, Patagonia, Etsy, Seventh Generation, Dansko, King Arthur Flour. And having this network within the B Lab, which is the certifying agency, we really have seen a great benefit. And we recently had an article published about how it pays to be a B Corp. And this is something that if you are thinking about or looking into, I'm happy to serve as a resource. But another really great way to think about your sustainability, and I'll just skip back to this slide because the process of becoming a B Corp and being certified is an extremely stringent process that you have to go through every 2 years, but it really helps you to organize your sustainability process and understand your business and develop goals around governance, workers, community, and environment. And that's sort of how it's broken out throughout a much larger rubric of questions and assessment. So that has been something that has really, really changed our way of doing sustainability, our way of marketing this message, and it's been a wonderful community to be a part of. And that is all that I have for you for now. I see a couple questions. And I'm sorry I missed the questions as I was going, but what was the ROI in years for this equipment? I'm going to assume that, oh yes, that was for the anaerobic digester. So the ROI for that project is estimated at 6 years. And that is, again, made possible through the partnership of, like I said, the feedstock providers as well as the renewable energy coming off of that project. So for the farm, the ROI was 6 years. And then the other question here, so are the moo pots made with solid waste from the farm or waste that is left over from the digester? So they are made with waste or byproduct really from the digester. So coming off of the digester, you have liquid byproduct and you have solid byproduct. That liquid byproduct is used as fertilizer, and the solid byproduct is used to make the moo pots. And Unfortunately, no, we do not have any co-op members in California. The next question was, are any co-op members in California? Our co-op members are just in New York and New England. And then the last question is, how do you get gluten-free certification? That is actually one I'm not familiar with. I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that. So hopefully I can direct you somewhere else, but I'm not familiar with getting gluten-free certification. Are there any other questions? Feel free to, I see someone might be typing now. And definitely feel free, my email is on this last slide, and I'm more than happy to answer further questions that folks have about anything in the slide deck. And like Jeremy said, it's there for download too, to go back to if you have other questions. Do I have any idea of the cost for B certification is the next question. The cost for B certification does vary based on your organization. So I think the best approach would be to just even reach out to B Lab. B Lab is the organization that does the certification. And if you're not able to get some type of idea from them, I'd be happy to dig into that a little further offline.
And this is Jeremy. I had a quick question for you. I think might be good for the group. Is you mentioned that there's only yourself, I think, and I think you said was your supervisor in terms of sustainability at Cabot.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of probably people that are on right now, whether they're a small business or a small business assistance provider, they're all kind of going through the same things. Very short staffed and very limited resources with trying to assist or do environmentally good things. Could you explain a little bit more about how you formed the green teams or how many you had?
Sure, definitely. So yeah, the green teams are a wonderful way to help spread, greater capacity within sustainability, if you will. The way that we form the green teams was it's a volunteer basis. We have support from senior leadership to say, yes, you can form these green teams. And then really the process was sending a message out to each of our plants and each of our offices. We have 4 manufacturing plants and 3 other office locations. Sending an email out asking for volunteers who might be interested in working with a sustainability team, working on issues around energy efficiency, water use, and resource recovery or recycling. And then basically we got responses from folks, got teams together, and everybody has, we meet for an hour every month or every couple months, and basically it's support from their supervisors to say, you can take time out of your regular duties to be a part of this team. So it really is on a volunteer basis, but it's volunteer time within the workday. And again, we had the support from senior management to run those teams. And part of my job is to coordinate and manage those teams. I did see one other question here about how many digesters does Cabot or Agri-Mark have. So we do have a number of farms who have digesters. So between what Cabot or Agri-Mark as a co-op owns and what our farmers have, we have about a half a dozen digesters that are in operation throughout our co-op. Okay, are there any other questions? Jeremy, if there's anything else from you as well?
I don't have any right now. I do see that somebody else is typing though.
Okay, yeah, I see one more. Oh, okay. So the typing was just to say thank you. Well, you're welcome.
And I just advanced some of the slides just to give people an idea of the resources and next steps. Here's a list of kind of EPA resources. You know, a lot of things about food waste, for food recovery, wasted food programs, et cetera, et cetera. The smart steps to sustainability at the bottom is a really good resource if people aren't aware of that one already. Some small business resources, you know, find your nearest SBDC or your SBEEPs or et cetera, et cetera. I will mention that PennTap did a similar food webinar last week, so you could check that out as well. And finally, there's some financial incentives if anybody's interested as well. I know that's a lot of things to help people kind of implement various projects around their facility or improve their operations. Are there any other questions?
So it looks like Allison has a question. Is it possible to review the slides here, or do we have to download the doc? I would defer to Jeremy on that.
Yeah, if you can't, I said in the beginning, if you have a problem with downloading the size of the file for the presentation, we'll probably send it out when we send out the survey. Or if you're really having a rough time, I would say just contact me, or you can visit our website, askemap.org. We'll probably post a lot of the information up there, including a recording of the webinar itself. So if you're having an issue, give me a shoot me an email or give me a call or something. We'll work a way to get you the information. And I do see one other question. If I know how to get a non-GMO 100% organic certification in Pennsylvania, I'm not sure about Pennsylvania. And would you know in other states how to go about getting that certification?
You know, unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the certifications around food, but I'm more than happy if somebody, if somebody wants to reach out to me directly, I'm more than happy to ask folks here who have gone through that. We don't have non-GMO or organic certifications on our foods. We do have some gluten-free, so I could help on that area. But like I said, we don't have the GMO or organic.
Yeah, and the only other thing I'll add is, I'm not sure about that specific certification, but I would say the devil will be in the details. But sure, if you need some help, I'd say, contact me or we'll look into it or at least try to provide some information. So if anybody has no more questions, I'd like to thank Ann for guest speaking. Ann, that was a great presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was, like I said, it was really wonderful to share, and happy to help to serve as a resource if folks have more questions.
Yes, thank you once again. If anybody's interested, we probably have a couple. Well, we have a couple other webinars coming up. We'll have one in February on the metals industry. And we're playing another one in March on wood product. I'm sorry. So thanks everybody for attending. We appreciate the the questions and the participation. And thanks once again to Ann. Thanks everyone.
All right, great. Thank you. Bye bye.